Okay.
Did Linda come with you this morning? Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry if she's feeling bad. But anyway, we'll just go on. We're here. It's a new year, but we continue on with the Old Testament. I just wanted to revert to what we were ending class with last time, and that was the friendship between David and Jonathan. In chapter 17 of First Samuel, it talks about the kind of a covenant that they entered into. No, chapter 18, verse 3. Uh, Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. I never forget the language of the older version, which says their souls were knit together. And what we pointed out last time was that that friendship and that loyalty resulted in some things that were kind of unusual because, in a sense, Jonathan was abandoning a kingship because he seemed to be heir apparent to Saul. But he recognized that David was the man that God had chosen. And so Jonathan manifested his friendship by his willingness to give up a throne, if you will, to be loyal to that friend David. And in this, not in a sense, he literally became the enemy of his father. And we said that, in a sense, that is Christ-like, because Christ gave up his home with his Father in heaven to come to earth to minister to us and for us. While we were yet sinners, we're told Christ died for us. And I just wanted to press that a little bit harder by pointing out that if that's the meaning of friendship, sometimes we may not fully construe what it means to be a friend. Most of us, to be a friend means, well, if we find somebody that we're compatible with and that we like, we may hang around together, and we may, go to the ball game together or something like that. Or we may, if we've got a friend, we may invite him over the house, have a bite to eat every once in a while, or we may give him a ride somewhere. But the deep friendship between David and Jonathan seems to go beyond that because it seems to involve a great sacrifice on the part of Jonathan. It's giving up his position in Israel in order to be a friend to David. And we could talk about that. He gave the signal to David that Saul was after him, so on and so forth. But I just wanted to bring up that point that true friendship may involve a sacrifice, not just sacrifice of a few minutes of time, but a greater sacrifice than that. Jesus, we're able to call him friend and Savior, of course, but it involved him making a sacrifice, a tremendous sacrifice to come to live among us. So anyway, that's just that's just what came to my mind. These questions are meant not to just be random, but to provoke thought. Sometimes the questions deal with points which there's been controversy and question over during the centuries. And sometimes it's based on a sermon I've heard or something over the years. Anyway, we'll jump to question number 13 on our First Samuel questionnaire. We ask, did David do wrong to eat hallowed bread? This is in chapter 21 of First Samuel. David, his troops are not doing well, and David at Nob. David went to Nob to Ahimelech the priest. Ahimelech trembled when he met him and asked, "Why are you alone? Why is no one with you?" And David answered Ahimelech the priest, "The king charged me with a certain matter and said to me, 'No one is to know anything about your mission and your instructions. As for my men, I have told them to meet me at a certain place. Now then, what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread or whatever you can find.'" Is David telling the truth here? He's being chased by Saul. So, well, in a sense, he's going somewhere, and I don't know that Saul was, but yeah.
No, I'm pointing because I'm trying to explain. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's First Samuel chapter 21. The priest answered David, "I don't have any ordinary bread on hand. However, there is some consecrated bread here, provided the men have kept themselves from women." So David replied, "Indeed, women have been kept from us, as usual, whenever I set out. The men's things are holy, even on missions that are not holy. How much more so today?" So the priest gave him the consecrated bread, since there was no bread there except the bread of the presence that had been removed from before the Lord and replaced by hot bread on the day it was taken away. What in the world are they talking about? What's the bread of the presence?
This is the table of the tabernacle.
Yeah. So he's not, the tabernacle must be there, pretty close, but they would keep these special breads on display in the tabernacle under the Old Testament. The bread, when it was replaced by a new loaf, the old loaves were to be eaten by the priests. That's how the priests got to eat, by the way. They ate the sacrifices of the people. And because when they were serving as priests, they were not on their farms raising food. They rotated through Jerusalem under the rules initiated, well, that we read about in the time of David, but this is going on here. So a lot of the meat that was offered as sacrifice was to be eaten by the priests. Some was not, but this bread was especially for the priests. But he gave it to David, right or wrong. What do you think? We could go back to, what's the good reference? From Exodus, it talks about the bread of the presence. Leviticus 24. That's it. 24. Talking about the bread of the presence. It belongs to Aaron and his sons, who are to eat it in the holy place, because it is a most holy part of their regular share of the offerings made to the Lord by fire. So it's a sacred thing. What do you think? Did David kind of take advantage of Abimelech here? Or did Abimelech do the wrong thing?
Yeah, he brought it up.
Yeah, interesting, but David took it.
So was the priest allowed to make dispensation?
Well, this is one, Jesus has something to say about it, right? Matthew 12, verse 3. That's why the question's on there. Jesus was often accused by his enemies, the Pharisees. This is Matthew 12. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and began to pick some heads of grain and eat them. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath." He answered, "Haven't you read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only for the priests. Or haven't you read in the law that on the Sabbath, the priests in the temple desecrate the day and yet are innocent? I tell you that one greater than the temple is here. If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent, for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." So that's what we read about in Jesus' time. He seems to condone it, doesn't he?
It seems, as he said, if a person is hungry and there's this food available,
Yeah,
that it isn't necessarily wrong to give it to them or for them to eat it, because food is necessary
yeah,
to survive.
yeah. What's the lesson here? I think Jesus, his teaching is do good, save life if you can. That should be the main objective. And this idea of, if they're picking a few grains, is that really reaping? Is that really work? That's what the traditions of the elders were. That even if you grabbed a berry off a tree, that was reaping on the Sabbath. Jesus healed on the Sabbath and was accused of working. They said, "Jesus, why don't you wait and heal on another day?" And you begin to wonder, maybe Jesus chose to heal on the Sabbath to set the example to these people that doing good is the main objective, that all of the rules and regulations are designed to foster that kind of a respect, but for God, but also to foster a love for people that leads to doing good. Think so?
No, I think so.
I don't know if we have an equivalent for eating the showbread.
I think concerning that topic is Jesus has the power to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But the public did not notice him. That he said, the one who is overpowering the temple is here. Even the temple subject to Jesus. But as for David, David didn't go there to take the thing by himself.
Right.
He make the priest give it out, which is good. Now, if today we follow the adjuration of Jesus, that there is a law concerning that you will not do this day, but we count on what Jesus did and want to follow what Jesus did, won't we go wrong? What I mean is, there is a rule in Jerusalem then concerning we will not do this in the Sabbath day. That is the rules. But Jesus as a person has power over the Sabbath, but they don't know him on that manner. But he wants to prove that he has power over the Sabbath.
Yeah.
So if ordinary person, only ordinary person who did that, I don't think it will go well. Why am I saying this? When we go back to Samuel, the book where we are listening, I think the first Samuel says concerning Uzzah.
Oh, yeah.
When Uzzah
We get to that in Second Samuel.
it's a second Samuel. Okay. Because I'm just transparent in something like what Uzzah did is from goodwill
Yeah,
to save life, to save what God has ordained, but when he touched it, he died. But as for Jesus, Jesus will touch that, he will not die because he has power over it. So we cannot count on what Jesus did to suppress the law of the land.
no, I agree with you there. This Jesus, part of the lesson here with the healing on the Sabbath and this is that Jesus has the power. He is above the law, if you will, as the Son of God, just as in some countries, the king and the king's children are not subject to the laws.
Yeah.
But I think still his point is that people are not focused on the right thing.
Mhm.
They're focused on the heads of grain and not doing good. They should have rejoiced when Jesus healed on the Sabbath, instead of looking for ways to criticize him, which is what they were doing. Anyway, that was a question. Did David do wrong? Jesus suggests that he didn't. So here's another question before we leave. David, the latter part of the book of First Samuel involves some chasing, and where Saul is after David, and David is running away from Saul. But in that account, over a few chapters, there's a couple of situations where David has the opportunity to get revenge on Saul, actually to kill him. One time he chases him into a cave. Another time out in the open, he's able to get in close to Saul in spite of his guards who are kind of asleep. But David does not take Saul's life. Is that good? Seems to.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not his responsibility. Saul was appointed as king until his rule ends by either his own hand or somebody else's hand. David has a respect for authority.
Right, that's the point. David says, I will not take the life of the Lord's anointed. The Lord's anointed. Again, that's a rule from back in the old, back in Exodus. Don't curse the ruler of your people. An interesting concept. We could does it apply today?
Yeah.
I think there's some respect for authority, but that's what it was. David was respecting authority, but in his case, he specifically says, "I won't lift my hand against the Lord's anointed." But what are we taught? The powers that be are ordained of God. The powers that hard to believe sometimes, hard to put into action in our lives because there's a lot of disrespect.
Well, kind of like today, you may not appreciate the president that's in office,
but I think you should respect the office,
I
even if
do.
somebody like Nixon, you know, cast a lot of problems on it, you know, made it look bad and damaged it. He did damage it. And then some of the things he did, how he lied to the public, and other people like Clinton did it too. But you should still respect the office, I think, kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
You know, it is a position of authority and leadership, according to our Constitution, and if we're Americans, we should respect that too. But as Christians, of course, we respect things like Jesus, you know, he's the authority, he's the leader above the laws of Moses. He was second, you might not second, but Jesus is first.
We won't discuss the events of 1776. But anyway,
I think it's okay to discuss facts. Okay,
okay,
but in a respectful way,
yes,
okay, not, I mean, of course, there will be gray areas, you know. Like, was it right to go into Iraq or Afghanistan? There are difference of opinions today, you know, today it's Venezuelan leader, I can't answer those questions, you know. What I'm trying to say is that it's okay to debate and discuss and disagree, but, you know, slandering, you know, the leaders is, you know,
and violence.
is wrong.
Our prayer is that some of these things somehow will work out for good to this country and to other countries, and somehow may lead to greater honor and respect for Jesus Christ. That would be our prayer. So, anyway, that's
Another factor of David not killing Saul. David was anointed. David was anointed
yes,
before all these things happening. So David knew very well that Saul was also anointed. So he don't want to touch anointed man because he's one.
yes,
If you do to Saul today, tomorrow it will be done to him. Oh yes, it will be done to him.
that's right. And he's gonna face a similar situation.
Exactly. He faced it somehow, but because of he did, he came back. He survived it.
Yeah.
As his one son rise against him. You see?
The
Because
Lord was with
he
him.
was anointed and the power of God is driving him, and then he was guided by the Spirit not to do what is wrong.
So that's part of being a man after God's own heart.
Exactly. Because after David and his descendants, you can see those kind of, kings to killing kings and those kind of to continue. Yeah, people stand against kings and kill them. Just I want to be the king.
Yeah.
The term anointed one, there's more than one anointed one. Okay, in Hebrew, where we get Messiah. So
Yeah, that's the meaning.
the Muslims like to use that to, you know, and maybe even I'm not sure if I'm atheist, but I know the Muslims, they like to use that with weak Christians. Oh, well, see, Jesus wasn't the only Messiah. Well, that's correct. Jesus wasn't the only Messiah.
Yeah.
But he is the greatest Messiah.
That's what the word means, anointed one.
Right.
The Messiah, the Christ, Jesus the Christ, Savior.
So David can be a Messiah, Saul is a Messiah, but we say Jesus is the greatest.
Yeah. David was anointed to rule over the people. Also, one of the big, Saul was involved in the war against the Philistines. David was able to more or less finish that job and put the Philistines in their place. He faces other challenges later from the Ammonites. But anyway, that's the middle of the book as it originally was. We moved to what we call 2 Samuel, but I put on the paper for the questions the way it reads in the King James Version. The second book of Samuel, otherwise called the second book of the Kings. And then, anyway. Anybody need a question sheet for this? We passed it on last week. Okay. We start off, the book of 1 Samuel ends in the loss of King Saul in battle against the Philistines, along with some of his sons, including Jonathan.
Second song.
You need this question sheet. Oh, that's right. You sure. So, we start out with the question, then, how does David react to the death of Saul? What's David's reaction to the death of Saul? What does it tell us about David, if anything? It's in first chapter of the book of 2 Samuel.
You all broke up, right?
He was, and you
He was a
know,
very emotional person.
yes, he's
Not stoic about his feelings.
in fact, well, let get back there. Stairs over. There we go, into Abigail. I'm trying to find this chapter 2 of 2 Samuel. Saul actually took his life down his sword asses. David writes a lament or a psalm, if you will, about the death of Saul. Your glory, O Israel, lies slain on your heights. How the mighty have fallen. Jonathan, I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women. So he takes it upon himself. What does it say about David, if you will?
That is a political term. Today, Democrat may not like Trump, no matter how, but he does. They may insult him in secrecy, but if something happened to Trump today, they will come out and praise him because they feel the pain that this is what is supposed to be. But David's way like this, like I was saying, he was anointed, he knew that the throne from Saul is coming to me. Who don't like that?
Yeah.
Who don't like it? He know. But he was guided. He was guided by the Spirit. So
Guided by the Spirit. That's a
by the Spirit.
good way to
Because
put it.
he don't want to do something while God's name will be drawn to it,
Yeah.
which is wrong. So he always guided by the Spirit.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it shows he's a very forgiving person.
Okay,
Saul tried to kill him, he hunted him down, he had him hiding in a cave,
right,
treated him like an outlaw,
right.
and he forgave him,
So
and he grieved at his funeral. So
David
that says a lot about him there, his
Forgive-
character.
he's not a vindictive man.
No.
The traditional consequence, if a new king comes to power, his first act is to track down all the relatives of the prior king and put them to death. And David doesn't do that. He laments, we'll find out later that he treats the descendants of Saul with mercy. It's interesting. So he's not vindictive. He's forgiving. He's not apt to abuse his power. When the Amalekite comes to tell him that Saul has been killed. I stood over him and killed him because I knew that after he had fallen, he could not survive. I took the crown. David and all the men took hold of their clothes, tore them. They mourned and wept, verse 11.
And actually, but that wasn't true. That because Saul killed himself. So
Yeah.
like this guy is kind of bragging, oh, I killed him, thinking maybe he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
some kind of a
He needed praise. He needed praise from David,
right.
so that David would say that, oh, you have done well.
Yeah.
You defeat my enemy, so I will give you a praise to my
That's
city,
right.
this kind of thing. This is what he wants.
Right.
He thought David would reward him.
Exactly.
But what happens to him?
David
Hasn't killed him.
killed.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's not above having somebody killed him. But
Then there's a similar event, I don't know if it's true, but Alexander the Great defeats the Persian king.
yeah,
And they come, I don't remember the details, but somebody came back and they said that they had killed the Persian king on behalf of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great had been put to death.
oh, I didn't
Because
know
they
that.
killed it's like you killed the Persian king, you struck your hand against the king, you're going to die, okay?
I wasn't.
I'll have to look up the details, there's a story now, whether it's 100% true, I can't answer that question.
And the other thing, David is not grasping for power. In chapter 2, verse 1, in the course of time, David inquired of the Lord, shall I go up to one of the towns of Judah? He asked, the Lord said, go up. And David asked, where shall I go? To Hebron. So what David is not able to just take over the kingdom immediately. There's some loyalty to Saul. So he goes to Hebron, which is down, it's way down south in Judah. And that's where he has support from the tribe of Judah. But a lot of Israel goes after another fellow by the name of Ishbosheth, who is a son of Saul. So there's a war between the house of Saul and the house of David. Lasted a long time. And David grew stronger and the house of Saul grew weaker. So there's some intrigue there. Abner comes to negotiate with David. Abner is Saul's uncle and was the head of the Saul army, if you will. Joab murdered Abner and kind of tainted himself. We'll talk more about Joab. But anyway, finally Ishbosheth is murdered and David is able to become king over the whole Israel in chapter 5. So that's an interesting war, but anyway.
That's the reason why we should see it different, because the kings around the Israelites, when they were demanding we need king, yes, God gave them the king as a Saul, as Samuel was complaining, but still, God is the one who is ruling.
Yes.
God is the one who is ruling. David know very well that I will be a king, but still, God is the one who is the director,
Yes.
who will tell me to go here, to do this, to do this. But other kings are not like that. They do whatever they like without consulting anybody. They'll do whatever they like. That is the spirit that entered Saul to go on with thinking that I can do whatever I like because I'm a king now.
Yeah.
But you are a king, but he is still under God's instruction. You see,
So-
so David followed that.
That's gonna be an aspect of David's life. He asked God. Here he asked God at the
Yes.
beginning of his reign, and he will be asking God as time goes along. We're almost out of time. So anyway, that's Ishmael. These guys have little odd names. There's another fellow that comes in here with a similar name. His name is Mephibosheth. Now, who is that?
Jonathan's son.
Yeah, and he's lame in his feet because he was dropped when he was a child by his nurse.
Let's walk over.
So anyway, again, the traditional way of dealing with someone like Mephibosheth would be to track him down and put him to death. But what does David do? Chapter 4. Verse 4, Jonathan, son of Saul, had a son who was lame in both his feet. He was 5 years old when the news came about Saul and Jonathan. His nurse picked him up and fled, but as she hurried to leave, he fell and became a cripple. His name was Mephibosheth. And David says, is looking for relatives of Jonathan to take care of. And finally, he finds Mephibosheth, and David supports him. By the way, he becomes one of those who eats at David's table. And so that's pointed out as a good aspect of King David, that he cares for Saul's, Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth. But maybe we'll leave it right there. How was David's kindness to Mephibosheth repaid? Because that's far from the end of the story. There are 2 more chapters of the story of Mephibosheth. So we'll take those up next time. Look at chapter 9, if you want, the verses 1 through 13, and then chapter 16, verses 1 through 4. Chapter 19, also 24. Anyway, what are the other chapters of the story of Mephibosheth, who was treated kindly by David? And how does David react? Anyway, thank you for coming. Enjoy the discussion.
Thank you for the lesson.
Thank you.
An interesting history there.
Yeah,
Lessons for us to learn. As I said the other day, David was a Christ-like person in many ways. And we see a
That's
lot of
good,
those
yeah.
characteristics coming
that's a
out.
good point.
He's kind, he's forgiving, all these things.
It's the
And
house.
he had his
that we-
downside too, we'll see that too. He was not perfect,
Yeah,
but overall,
He's kind.
he was up on the uphill.
David kept his own bodyguard, who, if today, I will not do that. Joab that David let Solomon kill. If maybe today you are the one, you will not kill Joab because of what Joab did. We always see the good part of David and follow and bring that out. But he has some places which is very dangerous that if you go that side, you see that he's wrong. Yes. If Joab defended you and bring back your throne, why do you tell your child to kill him? That he offended you. Mhm.
He was, I think, for a man of war, which he was characterized
Yeah.
as, he was very forgiving. Most people of war, they're usually out to kill everybody and
right, that's right.
just defeat everybody and run over them. But he wasn't that way. And he would feel bad about it. He had a conscience. So I think we can appreciate that.
We just adjourned, Michael.
Just a highlight. We'll finish up next week. All right, any concerts today, Matt? Taking a break for a while? They should give you a break after the holidays are.
Oh, they do.